Okay, hello my friends. You guys don't know how long it's been since the last one. It's only been a couple minutes, really, that it's still drying, but I probably spent about an hour trying to figure out how to make these work with these boards. So I think we can do it. We're gonna try anyways. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make this as, no, I'm gonna keep it the same. Okay, anyways. What I did was I had to try to figure out what pieces go with which pieces. I kept these so they're came off the same board. It's pretty easy with the ends that like this has this end and this has the bark. So it's pretty easy right now to keep these where they need to be. But we'll have to make sure we label them and everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the top and the sides out of these two matching pieces. None of them have the greatest coloring, but I think these have the better of the two. So I'm going to use these for that. And then the shelves. The shelf in the middle and these two end caps I'm going to take out of these two. So let's get cutting. The first thing we need to do is I'm going to square up both of these two ends. Oh, and by the way, I just sharpened my planes, just so you guys know. I want to try to let everybody know how often you sharpen. I think that's missed a lot. I just sharpened these, so when I use them, they're fresh. They've never been used before on anything else. And, okay, hold on one second. I gotta get my square. I left that upstairs. Okay, sorry about that. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna square up these ends. How I do that is, let me get you in a little closer so you can see. I'm going to take off I guess it doesn't really matter. These ends are a little square, so I'm going to start with this. And so I'm going to find my reference edge. And I'm going to start down at the end. And my knife is freshly sharpened too, by the way. A light pass, a little heavier, and a little heavier, yeah. And then you find that line. And you mark it across. Okay, I used the wrong line for the bottom. You want to check and see if they line up. And see how this corner does not line up with, can you see that? This end does not line up with this line, the last one I had. This is my reference face. And if you can look in there, you can kind of see that I used the wrong line. The plane must have this must have moved down a little bit on one of my marks. So I went back through and I marked it really heavy again, and then I'll use that one this time. Mark across, and then they match up. So you can use a shooting board, but I'm going to try to teach myself how to do this better. It doesn't take a whole lot, but what I'm watching for is that line to show just before the line shows up. And I'm not going all the way to the end. I'm just going part of the way, halfway through. Always checking for my knife lines. Nice and slow. And wow. Can't see that very well, but that's square. It's a little high in the back, and I can see that line a little heavy, but get back where it was. I skewed it quite a bit so I could go all the way across, because I just needed a little bit taken off the end. Still square, and yeah, you guys can see that. Oops. That's square. I love it. I'm getting better at that. It's taken a little bit of time. But I'm starting to get better at that. So, I'm going to do that same thing on this one. And yes, a shooting board would be faster. But eventually, if I don't have to use aids all the time, I think it'll be faster in general. But it'll take some time to get to that point. And don't do what I just did. This is my reference edge, and I was referencing off of the untrued up edge. So, I mean, this could be square, but we don't know. So that's why we use the side we use. Skinny boards like this, I'm going to put it in the vise. It's hard to stand them up on end. That's probably how it got messed up. Or I don't know what happened. Anyway. It's nice having that rough edge until the very end anyways, because that does stop you from making mistakes as opposed to references when you first started, when you're first dimensioning. Wow, it's cute. Okay, so let's, well, you can see it better on this side, I think. Keeping your blade sharp really makes this easier too, because if you're having to push down hard to get any cutting done, which is a tendency to happen when it gets dull, it's going to be easier to tip it all over the place. Almost went too far there. There's quite a bit to take off on this end. Back this up a little bit. I'm going to use my scrub planes to dull with that iron so fast. Okay, so now I took it down to it's just about to the line again. But still, see, even with a scrub plane, which is supposed to be a really rough thing, a sharp plane makes planing really easy. That's why I always keep these sharpened up. I know some people don't, but I always keep my sharp just as sharp as my smoothing planes because it makes my life easier. And woodworking should be fun, not work. So what I'm doing now is I did the edges, now I'm doing the middle. And I'm skewing the blade really far to the edge so that it's way to it's really skewed. The board's this way, the plane is really off to the side. However, I can go all the way to the side and it slices that whole thing. You do that at your peril though, because I have still had these split off to the edge. But I like the nice, smooth, clean edge that that gives. But I don't know. But we're square again. Just a little bit off this front side. A little more. Okay, so check it all the way across. That's pretty darn good. Now you can see that is, I think that is a nicely planed surface. It'll make marking really easy. You'll see it really well. And I don't know. That's one of the reasons why I like working walnut. It planes so nicely. This and cherry are my two favorite woods to work for planing end grain, because they're just like, it's just like butter. It's nice. Oak has a tendency to split a little bit more. I've not used a lot of other woods, but poplar's pretty nice too. But I think poplar's kind of an ugly wood. But everybody's got their opinion. So it's cheap. That's why I use it for a lot of things. But that's not my favorite. Anyways, now what we're going to do is we're going to mark. I'm going to put these together because I want these to be the sides to be the same. So where's that? And I want the sides to be 11 inches. So what I did was I just put a mark right between both boards. Now I'm going to take this board, again I'm going to reference off this one edge. And mark all the way down. Now, I normally would have done this on the other board too at the same time. But I like marking a eighth off. Paul Sellers showed this, and I really like it. It gives you a nice, you can clean up the other edge really fast, or easy. You don't have to spend time marking them both. Okay, so we have that. Now I'm gonna mark the. I'm just gonna keep these two together. We're gonna put these back together again and mark them both off because they're both gonna be the exact same. So now we have this marks the same and this marks the same. So I'm gonna mark that 1/8 inch. And then the tops, we're gonna give these as much as possible. So there's a bit of a cutout here. Okay. So what I did here, you guys couldn't see that. Is you see how this cutout here is at the end? I want to give the top and the bottom the most possible. So what I did was I just found where the line is, where I would normally square it off here, and I put a mark on the top. And then, so I figured out where I'd start squaring off the edge when I cut it. So that made that mark. You can move it over a little bit, but I think. And I did the same thing on the back. And I think the back, so then I just figure out which line gives me the most space. And here's this line, and this one's this one, so they actually are exactly the same. So I can just mark across. Probably should have just put a mark in the center, but I did use a reference edge, so hopefully it'll be okay. I'll double check that. But so now we have the top and the bottom all marked out. Also, now I can take this out of here. Double check this line. Make sure that's square. Yep, okay, it's okay. Normally I should have just put a little tick in between, but whatever. I gambled a bit and it was okay. And then take your marking knife, stick it into that spot, into that nick. Slide your square up to it, and mark it. Nice and light. I thought I slipped a little bit, so I had checked, but it was okay. The first passes are light, and then they go deeper after that. And again, stick it in the thing, stick it in your vise. By the way, I think this is an Eclipse vise, but no, I think it's Wood River, but I don't know, whatever. It still bothers me that I don't know what the brand is. I got it at Woodcraft, but so whatever one they sell. But my goal was to get in the one like Paul Sellers has, because I bought a Wharton vise and it fell apart. I don't know if it was. They're supposed to be good vices, but I don't know. Mine didn't last very long, and might have been my fault for misusing it when I first got it, because I was just starting, so I'll blame myself. It doesn't matter. It doesn't work, so I got a different one. And I don't like any of the vices, but there's another issue before trying that I don't know. Rambling a bit. When I get to the part where I talk about not where I don't like the vices from. Okay, got a little excited, got a little ahead of myself. So now, I'm going to cut these out. And I'm going to use my brand new crosscut saw. Never used it before, so you guys get to see it when it just started. So I take my fingers and I pinch right on the edge, and that just gives myself some stability. You could probably just put your thumb, but I'd probably have a tendency to slip around a little bit. Pinching the edge gives you a little bit, in my opinion, a little bit more security. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the saw, and I'm up at the toe, away from the board. See, I'm not touching it. And then as I go forward, I'm going to lower the saw down until it hits the edge of the board. So, just like that. If you're having the saw moving as you lower, you can it engages better. And what I'm doing is every time I push forward, I'm lowering the blade down a little bit. Like that. And it's okay if I can see that, I want to still see the knife wall a little bit. I don't want to go all the way, get completely to the knife wall. But, so if anything, I want to stay to that side of it. So now I'm all the way across. I'm going to start lowering down to the other side. And now that I'm all the way through, I could flip the board over, but I should still stay square. Now this board is falling apart, so we'll see how good I did. Not bad. I like this. Saws works good. It's sharp. That's why it's nice. And it is easier to use a crosscut saw on a cross grain as opposed to a rip saw, which is what I've been using. So, if you can see, these little lines you can still see where the knife wall was. On this side, it wasn't anything, so I had my saw a little bit canted, so I need to get better at being square. And again, that's one more thing that I need work on. So, but anyways, And if I was off, if I undercut it, you know what? I would make the other one match it. So there's no, the little bit you're going to be off, it's not a big deal. It's, you can fix anything. There's always tolerances. We're not doing like precise engineering. So you can always get a little bit, you can always get a little bit, you can always move it a little bit. So you can, if it's not square, draw a new line, square to that. The only thing is you just got to make the other one match. Actually, this is the top and the bottom. You actually don't have to get them to match, but it does make it easier. Can you see what I'm looking for? Because you don't have to actually look at the side all the time. I don't know if you can see this or not, but there's a little white, or it's lighter color line all the way around, and that is my knife wall line. When you push with a knife, you're compressing the fibers, and it leaves that little bit of a shiny, different color line. So that's what you can look for. And you can still see the outside, the edge. You probably can't see this, but over here there is a little bit of frayed edge. You can see the edge up a little bit. And so it's not square on this side. Now we're just in the middle. But I don't want to go through, I don't want to get rid of those lines completely because then I've gone too far. That is where my cut line is. It's not that it's not happened before, but that's my goal, is to get as close to that line as possible without going over it. And good. Now with this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go right between those two lines. And 1/8 inch gives you lots of play. So okay, so I'm gonna pause you guys now, and I'm gonna plane up these edges and cut the other side, and then we'll come back when we get to the last few parts. Before I forget, I just cut that one, and I'm labeling as I go. I'm labeling where they go, which one to switch. But you want to make sure that you keep the same, or keep reference marks. Now, it doesn't really matter if they're the same ones that you had before, but they just need to be square to each other. That's the main thing we're looking for, is they have to be square to each other all the way around. So, in this case, which I think this might actually be the opposite side, but let's see. You can kind of match up. Nope. I picked the same one, but it doesn't matter really, but they just have to be square. So, but for future for reference sake, make sure you put the same, mark on the same one. So like on this one, it would probably be good for me to do that right now before I do any cutting. Is make sure that I mark that reference side on, then I know that I'm using the right one. And I don't have to recheck it again. So that's all, I guess. I'll be back. Okay, so we have the length for the tops and the sides. I squared off the ends of this board, but let me show you. I'm going to take this other side and kind of show you what I mean. You remember how it was when I first started planing? It would take really nice Okay, you know when I first started, it would take really nice, clean, wispy shavings. Can you see there's still shavings, there's still curls there, but they're not the full length curls. That means the blade is getting dull and it needs to be sharpened again. So I wanted to show that to you before I did that. So I was able to get the last end sharpened up, but it wasn't performing the way I like it. So I'm going to sharpen this real quick. And before I put that away, I'm going to do this real quick too, my knife, because I've used it quite a bit. And I know quite a bit for most people isn't anything, but how often do you use the utility knife and you have to change it when you're marking? Anything. It can probably do like 3 or 4 sheets of drywall, and then it's so dull that it's like irritates you. At least it does me. And I changed the blade. So, or whatever, I don't know. But same thing with this. And this blade, wood is a lot harder than most things you would cut with a utility knife. Okay. don't know if you can see that, but these are much nicer looking shavings. They're not really little pieces, they're actually kind of longer. It's not as good of a description as I can, but I'm not going to waste more time trying to get you a nice clean shaving. That's better. It probably could still be better yet, but it's good enough for now. Alright, so back to where I was. These ends have been squared up. And where's my reference edge? There. Again, these are still rough, so it makes it easy to find the reference edge, and that's where I do most of my marking from. If you don't do that, you can have a tendency to mark from the wrong end if you do both edges right away. I mean, you still have to watch it later on, but okay, so we need 3 pieces. One is 3.5, and then we have 2 that are 1.5 inch wide. So we need 2 pieces of 1.5 inch wide and 1 of 3.5. But all of the rest of them are 14 inches long. So we need 2 pieces of 14 inch long, and these, the length on this isn't critical because we're going to be planing it off later. This is for the drawers, the top one, and these side pieces. And this is going to be a mortise, a through mortise, and these will be, I think they're a housing blades, or dados I guess. So what am I doing? So I need to mark 14 inches anyways, but we'll be cutting them off later. So if you didn't want to square off this end, that's up to you. I'm going to, because that way I can use either side. So I made my mark. And by the way, I chose this because this distance here, I believe, that's over 3 inches right there. So I have a little bit of leeway, so that's 3 inches right there. So I have about 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, I don't know, to for the rip down the middle. And I'm going to use this for the 2 smaller pieces. So if you can see, that's what I was talking about. This here is like 3 1/4, 3 1/8 wide, and I only need 2 1/2 inch pieces. I couldn't get it out of this side. So anyways, I'm going to mark these up and square off the ends just like I did with the previous pieces, and then I'll come back and we'll talk about ripping the boards down to length, the width. All right, so I will see you in a second. All right, bye.